Ken Caminiti died in 2004. He was found on the floor of a friend's apartment in the Bronx. He had just taken a speedball, a deadly mix of cocaine and heroin. His heart stopped. He was rushed to Lincoln Hospital but died that evening. The official cause was acute intoxication from cocaine and opiates. His heart was enlarged from years of steroid and drug abuse. But long before that tragic day, Ken Caminiti did something that changed baseball forever. Ken was a tough third baseman who played like a football player. He dove for every ball. He had a cannon arm. He could hit from both sides of the plate. His style was bruising and relentless. Teammates loved playing with him because he made them want to dig deeper. In 1995, Ken joined the San Diego Padres. Right away, he hit .302 with 26 home runs. He won his first Gold Glove award. But 1996 was when everything changed. That year, Ken had the season of his life. He hit .326 with 40 home runs and 130 RBIs. His batting average jumped 24 points from any previous full season. His RBIs went up by 36. He won the MVP award unanimously. He also got the Silver Slugger Award and another Gold Glove. One game showed just how tough Ken was. It was August 18th against the Mets in Mexico. Ken was sick with severe dehydration and diarrhea. The team gave him IV fluids and he ate a Snickers bar. Then he went out and hit 2 home runs. That was Ken Caminiti, always playing through pain. But playing through pain came with a terrible cost. In 1996 alone, Ken battled an abdominal strain, a torn biceps tendon, shoulder and elbow injuries, and constant pain in his back, hamstring, and groin. The injuries kept piling up. Ken started using steroids in 1996, the same year he won MVP. But he did not use them to get better at baseball. He used them because his body was breaking down. Ken said, "I didn't do it to make me a better player. I did it because my body broke down." Other players were using steroids too. They were easy to buy in Tijuana, Mexico, just a short drive from San Diego. Ken tried them and the results were stunning. He hit more home runs in the second half of 1996 than in any previous full season. After shoulder surgery in 1997, Ken started using steroids again. This time a doctor helped him with injection cycles. By 1998, Ken looked huge at spring training. One person said he was as big as an ox, but the steroids hurt him too. Ken started getting frequent hamstring and quad strains. His tendons and ligaments ruptured. His muscles tore. He could barely stay on the field. When he returned to Houston in 1999, Ken managed his own steroid cycles without a doctor. Ken also started carrying what he called a goodie bag full of pain pills. His pregame routine included a mix of pills and powders that teammates called a Caminiti cocktail. He began using cocaine after games to fight the depression and tension that came from steroid use. Ken's drug use started way before baseball. He drank alcohol in middle school and smoked marijuana in high school. By 1990, crack cocaine was his main vice. He admitted having a drinking problem in 1994 and went to rehab in 2000. In 2001, Ken was arrested for drug possession. He got 3 years of probation with mandatory drug tests, but he kept relapsing. In February 2003, he tested positive for cocaine while on probation. He was ordered into a Texas treatment program, but the program was canceled in May after Ken had almost finished it. This disrupted his recovery. In September 2004, Ken tested positive for cocaine again. This was his 4th probation violation. On October 5th, just 5 days before he died, Ken appeared in court. He admitted violating probation and was sentenced to 180 days in jail, but he was released immediately with credit for time served. Then came the confession that changed everything. In May 2002, 1 year after retiring, Ken sat down with Sports Illustrated writer Tom Verducci at his Houston home. Ken admitted using steroids during his MVP season and for several years after. He was the first major player to confess. Ken estimated that at least half of major league players were using steroids. He said this was just his guess based on what he saw in clubhouses. Ken said steroids made him feel like Superman, but he also talked about the negative effects like feeling tired and depressed when coming off them. Ken made a controversial statement. He said he would not warn young players against steroid use. His reason was that if a player's job and money were at stake, playing clean put them at a disadvantage. Ken said, "I've made a ton of mistakes. I don't think using steroids is one of them. The Sports Illustrated story was called Thoroughly Juiced: Confessions of a Former MVP. It sent shockwaves through baseball. Some people praised Ken for his honesty, but many players questioned his motives and intelligence. Ken became a pariah in baseball. His life continued to fall apart after the article came out. But Ken's confession, along with earlier statements from Jose Canseco, forced baseball to act. The story brought steroid use into mainstream debate. Congress got involved. Public pressure mounted. During his rehab sessions in 2001 and 2002, Ken revealed something he had never told anyone. He was sexually abused as a child starting in middle school. He kept the secret from everyone, even his parents, for decades. The adult male who abused him was never identified. Ken told others in rehab that this childhood abuse was the main reason behind his drug use. He used substances to turn his mind off from the memories. He used them to numb the inner pain and shame that came up whenever he remembered his trauma. Ken was getting mental health therapy through Major League Baseball's Employee Assistance Program, but it was too late to save him. The damage was already done. Before Ken's confession, steroids were technically banned by MLB since 1971 if you didn't have a prescription. They were expressly prohibited since 1991, but no player was ever disciplined for steroid use before 2002. There was no real testing. Ken's confession changed that. A mandatory drug testing policy was agreed to in 2002. The first testing in 2003 found 104 positive tests. This proved how widespread the problem was. In 2004, MLB announced a tougher drug policy with random testing and suspensions. First offense got you 10 days. Second offense got you 30 days. Under pressure from Congress, penalties got much tougher in 2005. First offense became 50 games. Second offense became 100 games. Third offense was a lifetime ban. The Mitchell Report came out in December 2007. This 409-page report detailed the history of performance-enhancing drug use in MLB. It named 89 players who allegedly used steroids or other drugs. The report found that 5 to 7% of players tested positive in 2003. After mandatory testing began, players switched to human growth hormone because it could not be detected. MLB kept making testing stricter. Eventually, HGH became testable too. Penalties got even tougher. 80 games for first offense, 162 games for second offense, and lifetime ban for third offense. MLB said it implemented all recommendations from the Mitchell Report. Ken's confession had forced baseball to clean itself up. Without his honesty, the sport might never have changed. Ken Caminiti's legacy is complicated. He was considered the greatest third baseman in Padres history. Friends and family remember him as generous, loyal, and dedicated. But he is also remembered as a victim of the steroid era who became a reluctant whistleblower. Ken's death was overshadowed by actor Christopher Reeve, who also died in New York the same day. This speaks to how quickly public attention moves on, especially for complex personal tragedies. His funeral was held in Solana Beach, California. Many Padres players attended. His remains were cremated and buried at Cambo Ranch in Texas, a property he owned with his friend Craig Biggio. Ken's story is about more than baseball and steroids. It is about childhood trauma, addiction, and the pressure to perform at any cost. His narrative shows that addiction is often a way to cope with deep psychological pain, not just poor choices or moral failing. Ken's confession came at a huge personal cost. He became an outcast. But his honesty forced systemic change in baseball. His sacrifice helped clean up the sport for future generations. Ken Caminiti was not just a fallen MVP or a cautionary tale about steroids. He was a wounded man who found the courage to tell the truth when it mattered most. His pain helped others. His honesty changed baseball forever, and that legacy will always be bigger than any statistic or scandal. Don Gullett's life had a tragic end in 2024, but it wasn't just how he died. It was how it all unraveled. He could have been in Cooperstown, but instead his career ended at 27. On February 14, 2024, Don Gullett passed away at age 73 in Columbus, Ohio. Heart problems finally claimed the man who had battled his body for decades. But the real tragedy wasn't his death. It was what never happened. By age 25, Gullett had won more games than Sandy Koufax, Whitey Ford, and Warren Spahn combined at the same age. His manager called him a sure Hall of Famer. He won 4 straight World Series titles. Then his body gave out. This is the story of one of baseball's greatest what-ifs. Donald Edward Gullett was born on January 6, 1951 in Tiny Lynn, Kentucky. He was the 6th of 8 children in a working-class family. His parents raised their kids in rural Greenup County, right across the Ohio River from Portsmouth. As a teenager, Don worked neighboring farms. He pitched hay bales and did hard manual labor. This built the powerful frame that would make him special. At McKell High School, Don became a legend in 3 sports. During his senior year in 1968, he earned all-state honors in baseball, football, and basketball. His baseball numbers were crazy. He threw a perfect game and struck out 20 of 21 batters. As a senior, he struck out 120 batters in just 52 innings. On the football field, he once scored 72 points in a single game. On the basketball court, he averaged 25 points per game with a high of 47. Despite offers from major colleges for all 3 sports, Don's heart belonged to baseball. The Cincinnati Reds drafted him in the first round of 1969 as the 14th pick overall. In 1970, at just 19 years old, Don made the Cincinnati Reds roster. This wasn't some rebuilding team. This was the Big Red Machine. His MLB debut came on April 10, 1970, in relief against the San Francisco Giants. In his rookie season, he went 5-2 with a 2.43 ERA and 6 saves. On August 23rd, he tied a National League record by striking out 6 straight batters in relief. The Reds made the World Series that year. The 19-year-old Gullett pitched 6 2/3 innings against Baltimore, allowing just 1 earned run. In 1971, Don moved into the starting rotation. At age 20, he went 16-6 and led the National League with a 727 winning percentage. Manager Sparky Anderson limited the young fireballer to 100 pitches per game, way ahead of its time. Anderson saw something special. He compared Don to Sandy Koufax early in his career. By 1974, Anderson called the battery of Gullett and Johnny Bench the only Hall of Fame battery active in baseball today. But 1972 brought Don's first major health scare. He got hepatitis and had his only losing record season. Despite this, he bounced back in the World Series, allowing just 1 earned run in his Game 4 start. In 1973, Don started slow because of lingering hepatitis effects. But after July 14th, he went 9-0 and finished with a career-high 18 wins. That year, Willie Mays hit his 660th and final home run off Gullett. In 1974, Don won 17 games with 183 strikeouts. By age 23, he had 65 career wins. The future looked bright, but 1975 brought warning signs. Don started great, winning 9 games by mid-June. Then he broke his left thumb against Atlanta and missed 2 months. He came back and won 6 more games, finishing 15-4 with a 2.42 ERA. His ability to bounce back was amazing. It was also dangerous. Don was pushing his body past safe limits. Despite missing time, he finished 5th in Cy Young voting. In the National League Championship Series, he threw a complete game and hit a home run with 3 RBIs. He called it the greatest day in my life in baseball. The Reds won the World Series. In 1976, more injuries hit. Don had a pinched nerve in his neck and shoulder problems. He still went 11-3 and won games in both the NLCS and World Series sweeps. But during the World Series opener, Don dislocated his right ankle and tore a tendon. By his 25th birthday in 1976, Don had 91 wins. That was more than Warren Spahn, Whitey Ford, and Sandy Koufax had at 25. His winning percentage with the Reds was .674, making him the franchise leader. Sparky Anderson believed Don would win at least 250 games and was almost sure of making the Hall of Fame. But Anderson always added, barring an injury. After 1976, Don became one of baseball's first major free agents. The New York Yankees signed him to a 6-year, $2 million contract. Yankees president Gabe Paul called him a modern Whitey Ford. Don holds a unique record. He's the only pitcher to start opening games in back-to-back World Series for different teams. His Yankees debut came on April 10, 1977. Despite shoulder problems, he went 14-4 and led the American League with a 778 winning percentage. But the injuries kept coming. He sprained his ankle and pulled a neck muscle after slipping on the mound. Later, he missed 6 weeks with a sore shoulder. The Yankees won the World Series against the Dodgers. Don had his second straight title. But 1978 would be different. Don's shoulder problems got much worse. He made just 8 appearances all season. His last major league appearance came on July 9, 1978, against Milwaukee. He couldn't get out of the first inning. On September 29, 1978, doctors operated on Don's shoulder. They found a double tear of his rotator cuff. The surgery was performed by Dr. Frank Jobe, a pioneer in baseball surgery. Even Jobe said the injury was more severe than he had expected. Don was 27 years old. His career was over. The Yankees released him in 1980. He never pitched professionally again. Don finished with 109 wins, a 3.11 ERA, and 921 strikeouts in 9 seasons. These are good numbers, but not Hall of Fame numbers. His career was simply too short. The injuries were brutal. Hepatitis in 1972, chronic back spasms by 1974, broken thumb in 1975, neck and shoulder problems in 1976, more injuries in 1977, finally the career-ending rotator cuff tear in 1978. What made it tragic was the timing. This wasn't an old pitcher breaking down. This was a 27-year-old in his prime. Don didn't give up on baseball. In 1989, he briefly played for the St. Lucie Legends of the Senior Professional Baseball Association. He moved into coaching, working with minor league teams. In 1993, he rejoined the Cincinnati Reds as a pitching coach. He held the job until 2005. The Reds inducted him into their Hall of Fame in 2002. Don's personal life had challenges too. He suffered a heart attack in 1986 at age 35. It was nearly fatal. He quit smoking after that scare. But in 1990, he had another heart attack and needed triple bypass surgery. He lived quietly on his 75-acre farm in Greenup County, raising cattle. He enjoyed hunting, fishing, and country music. In 1977, Kentucky State Police found 800 cannabis plants on his property. Don denied knowing about them. His brother Jack, who managed the property, was indicted. Don was never charged. Through all the health problems, Don remained respected in baseball. When he died, former teammate Johnny Bench called him the best athlete and competitor I ever saw or played with. Don Gullett represents one of baseball's great what-ifs. By 25, he had more wins than future Hall of Famers at the same age. His manager predicted he'd win 250 games and make the Hall of Fame. Instead, injuries ended his career at 27. But Don's story isn't just about what didn't happen. He won 4 straight World Series titles. He was a key part of the Big Red Machine dynasty and the Yankees championships. He mentored young pitchers for decades as a coach. Most importantly, he showed incredible toughness. Every time his body broke down, he found a way to come back. That resilience defined him more than any injury ever could. Don Gullett died the way he lived, quietly with dignity, surrounded by family. His legacy isn't just about unfulfilled potential. It's about a kid from Kentucky who made the most of the time he had. One pitch changed everything for Donnie Moore. One strike from glory, he had the baseball world at his feet. But in a heartbeat, his life took a turn so dark, it would end in tragedy no one could have imagined. October 12, 1986. Anaheim Stadium was electric. The California Angels starter Mike Witt had been masterful for 8 innings. Then he faltered. A leadoff single to Bill Buckner. A crushing 2-run homer by Don Baylor cut the lead to 5-4. Manager Gene Mauch pulled Witt for lefty Gary Lucas to face left-handed hitter Rich Gedman. Lucas hit Gedman with his very first pitch. Now there were runners on first and second with 1 out. Mauch had no choice but to bring in his closer. Donnie Moore stood on that mound facing Dave Henderson, a backup outfielder who'd struck out his last at-bat. Ironically, Henderson had committed a fielding error earlier that led to a 2-run Angels homer. He was nursing a sore leg and struggling all series. Moore got ahead 2-2. One more strike, and the Angels would win the pennant. The tension was crushing. Moore had been throwing fastballs that Henderson kept fouling off, so he decided to surprise him with his split-finger fastball. But as Moore later admitted, it was right in his swing. Henderson crushed it deep into the left center field seats. 2-run homer. Boston took a 6-5 lead. The stadium fell silent. Al Michaels called it one for the ages. But for Moore, it was the beginning of the end. The game wasn't over. The Angels tied it in the 9th, forcing extra innings. Moore stayed in. In the 11th inning, he faced Henderson again. This time, Henderson hit a sacrifice fly for the go-ahead run. Boston won 7-6. The Angels were shell-shocked. They lost Games 6 and 7 back in Boston. Their World Series dream was shattered. That home run would haunt Moore forever. But the truth about what happened to him is deeper, darker, and more tragic than the headlines ever told. Donnie Ray Moore was born February 13, 1954 in Lubbock, Texas. He was the third overall pick in the 1973 amateur draft, chosen right behind future Hall of Famers Robin Yount and Dave Winfield. For over a decade, he bounced between 5 different teams as a journeyman pitcher: Chicago Cubs, St. Louis Cardinals, Milwaukee Brewers, Atlanta Braves. He never quite found his footing. Then he found his home with the California Angels. 1985 was Moore's career year. He posted a sparkling 1.92 ERA with 31 saves in 65 appearances, earning his first and only All-Star selection. He was dominant, striking out 72 batters in 103 innings. The Angels rewarded him with a massive 3-year, $3 million contract. That's over $6.5 million today. He was their highest-paid reliever. The pressure was enormous. Moore seemed ready for it. Before the 1986 playoffs, he told reporters, "The job I do is not easy, but I thrive on it. I can handle failure. That's one thing most people have a hard time doing. If you can go out and take all the glory, then the days you're a GOAT, you've got to handle that too." Those words would prove tragically ironic. What nobody knew was that Moore was already falling apart physically. He'd missed a full month early in the 1986 season with what doctors initially called a rib cage strain. When they dug deeper, they found something much worse: a bone spur growing dangerously close to his spinal cord. His right shoulder throbbed constantly. He was taking a cocktail of medications just to function: nerve-blocking agents, cortisone shots, painkillers. The chronic pain triggered debilitating migraines that plagued him daily. After Game 5, Moore briefly let his guard down. He admitted to reporters that his arm hurt every time he threw a baseball, but he quickly recanted those comments. In baseball's culture, players didn't show weakness. You played through pain, or you didn't play at all. The numbers tell the real story. In 1985, his All-Star year, Moore pitched in 65 games with a 1.92 ERA. In 1986, those numbers dropped to 49 games and a 2.97 ERA. By 1987, he managed just 14 appearances. In 1988, his final year, he posted a 4.1 ERA in 27 games. The home run didn't start his decline, it just put an exclamation point on it. After the crushing loss, Moore became the primary target for blame throughout Southern California. As the only African-American player on the Angels roster, he was singled out in ways his teammates weren't. Fans booed him relentlessly whenever he took the field at home. The media coverage was brutal and relentless. Radio call-in shows dissected his failure daily. A year after the home run, Moore confessed to reporters that he would think about it until the day I die. Those words proved prophetic. His agent and former teammates later said the fans and media destroyed him over that single pitch. The public fixation on his failure became completely inescapable. Every appearance was a reminder of October 12th. Moore's body continued to break down. Elbow problems limited him to those 14 appearances in 1987. By 1988, his performance had plummeted. The Angels released him. He signed with Kansas City but played briefly in the minors before being released again in June 1989. At 35, his career was over. His personal life crumbled too. The financial security of his contract was gone. He couldn't afford the house in Anaheim Hills anymore. His marriage to Tanya, his high school sweetheart, was in crisis. They separated a month before the end. Neighbors reported frequent arguments. The public failure, the physical pain, the financial strain, and the broken marriage all converged. The weight became unbearable. July 18, 1989. Tanya came to their Anaheim Hills home to visit their 2 sons, ages 7 and 10. An argument erupted. Moore pulled out a .45 pistol and shot his wife 3 times in the upper chest and abdomen. Their 3 children were in the house. Tanya and her 17-year-old daughter managed to escape. The daughter drove her mother to the hospital, where Tanya underwent surgery. She survived. Back at the house, still in the presence of at least one of his sons, Moore put the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. He died on the kitchen floor. The media rushed to explain the inexplicable. Moore's agent told reporters, He could not live with himself after Henderson hit the home run. That home run killed him. Teammate Brian Downing said the media had destroyed a man's life over one pitch. Headlines across the country read, "That home run killed him." It was a powerful story. It was also incomplete. More than 20 years later, the truth emerged. In 2001, Tanya Moore revealed the dark secret that had defined their marriage. Donnie had physically abused her every time something would go wrong in his life. The violence was the reason she'd left him. His attack on her wasn't an irrational break. It was the culmination of years of domestic abuse. Former teammate Don Sutton reflected that Moore was a gentle, kind person, publicly, and he never would have imagined he had such a dark secret. The home run was a convenient explanation for an act rooted in a long-standing pattern of violence. Other athletes became scapegoats too. Ralph Branca gave up the shot heard round the world in 1951. Bill Buckner made his infamous error in the 1986 World Series. Both endured immense public scrutiny. Both found ways to move forward, rebuild their lives, and even profit from their notoriety. Moore's story is fundamentally different. His public failure didn't create a monster. It was the final trigger for a man whose private demons had been festering for years. The home run amplified existing problems, but didn't cause them. The legacy of Donnie Moore isn't just about a pitcher who couldn't handle pressure. It's about the dangers of oversimplification, the crushing weight placed on professional athletes, and the devastating consequences when private violence meets public failure. His story reminds us that no single event, no matter how dramatic, can fully explain the complexity of a person's life or death. Behind every public moment lies private struggles we may never see. Moore's tragedy stands as a warning about the human cost of fame, the pressure to perform, and the dark secrets that can lurk beneath the surface of success. The home run didn't kill Donnie Moore. His demons did. The pitch just gave them a stage. He was loved for his swing, feared for his numbers, but hated for his skin. Hank Aaron didn't just break Babe Ruth's record. He broke through America's darkest prejudices. The world celebrated his 755 home runs, but few knew the price he paid. This is the story they don't teach in history books. Born in segregated Mobile, Alabama in 1934, Henry Louis Aaron grew up under the harsh realities of Jim Crow laws. These early experiences shaped his understanding of racial inequality from a young age. At 14, Aaron attended a talk by Jackie Robinson, who had broken baseball's color barrier just years before. Robinson's words inspired Aaron to pursue baseball, but he knew the path would be filled with the same challenges Robinson faced. Aaron's professional career began in 1951 with the Indianapolis Clowns of the Negro American League. He immediately stood out, batting .366 and helping the Clowns win the 1952 Negro World Series. But even early success came with painful reminders of America's racial divide. During a team visit to Washington, D.C., Aaron witnessed something that would stay with him forever. After the black players finished eating at a restaurant, he heard the staff breaking all the plates in the kitchen. Even as a teenager, Aaron understood the cruel message. The plates were destroyed because black men had eaten from them. If dogs had used them, they would have simply been washed. When Aaron joined the Milwaukee Braves organization in 1952, he was assigned to minor league teams. In the newly desegregated Sally League in 1953, he was one of only 5 African-American players breaking the color line. The road was brutal. Aaron endured constant taunts and discrimination, including segregated facilities where he and other black teammates were forced to eat and sleep separately from white players. A writer famously captured this reality, noting that Henry Aaron led the league in everything except hotel accommodations. When traveling through the segregated American South, Aaron frequently had to make his own housing and meal arrangements. The constant racism led to profound homesickness, though his brother encouraged him to persevere. Despite these hardships, Aaron managed to claim the league's MVP honors. These experiences revealed a deeper truth about Jim Crow. This wasn't just legal separation, it was systematic dehumanization. Objects touched by black individuals were considered defiled and worthy of destruction. The daily indignities permeated every aspect of life, even for athletes with exceptional talent. By 1973, Hank Aaron was approaching Babe Ruth's career home run record of 714. This pursuit became more than a sporting achievement. It became a racial flashpoint. The question, how could a black man dare to break a white man's record, became a common sentiment among those who opposed his quest. As Aaron neared the record, he was flooded with mail. The U.S. Postal Service reported he received approximately 930,000 pieces during the chase. This staggering number required considerable effort in the pre-internet era. Much of this mail contained vile racial slurs and explicit death threats against him and his family. Some threats were highly specific, promising to shoot him at home plate. The severity forced Aaron to require police escort protection at all times. The Atlanta Journal even prepared an obituary, fearing he might be murdered. Threats extended to journalists who provided positive coverage, who were called racial epithets. The Federal Bureau of Investigation became involved, investigating the most credible threats. Most disturbing, Aaron's daughter Gail, a student at Fisk University, received threatening phone calls and was the target of a kidnapping plot. 5 FBI agents were assigned to her dormitory for protection, disguised as groundskeepers. The fear was overwhelming. Aaron's mother, terrified for his life, tightly hugged him on the field after he hit his 715 home run, believing no one would shoot him if she was embracing him. Just like Hank Aaron persevered through every challenge to reach his dreams, today's athletes continue inspiring us with their determination. And if you want to follow every moment of sports history in the making, Fubo gives you access to all the games that matter. Check out Fubo through our link and never miss the moments that define legacies. The home run chase wasn't just a sporting event, it became a national referendum on race in America. The unprecedented volume of hate mail revealed widespread, deeply ingrained racial animosity that viewed a black man's triumph over a white icon as an existential threat. Aaron later reflected on the experience. It really made me see for the first time a clear picture of what this country is about. The impact on his family was devastating. My kids had to live like they were in prison because of kidnap threats, he said. For himself, Aaron described living like a pig in a slaughter camp. I had to duck. I had to go out the back door of ballparks. I had to have a police escort with me all the time. I was getting threatening letters every single day. The lasting damage was profound. All of these things have put a bad taste in my mouth, and it won't go away. They carved a piece of my heart away. Years later, he reiterated, "It still hurts a little bit inside, because I think it has chipped away at a part of my life that I will never have again." Even baseball's leadership seemed disconnected from Aaron's reality. When the 1974 season began, Aaron stood at 713 home runs. The Atlanta Braves initially planned to bench him for the first 3 games to ensure he'd break the record at home, maximizing ticket sales. Commissioner Bowie Kuhn rejected this plan, ordering the Braves to play Aaron in at least 2 of the first 3 games. Despite knowing about the death threats and Aaron's psychological burden, Kuhn prioritized competitive integrity over player safety. When Aaron finally broke the record, Commissioner Kuhn was notably absent, choosing instead to speak at a private event in Cleveland. Aaron later publicly refused an award from Kuhn, highlighting their strained relationship. This controversy revealed a disconnect between institutional priorities and the lived reality of black athletes during intense racial animosity. Aaron's subsequent exhaustion and relief, rather than pure joy, reminded everyone that fighting systemic racism often overshadows personal celebration. Throughout his career, Aaron carried the burden of racism with remarkable dignity and resilience. President George W. Bush later praised Aaron for overcoming poverty and racism and steadily pursuing his calling in the face of unreasoning hatred. Aaron's experiences fueled his activism during the civil rights movement. He actively used his platform to advocate for racial equality, becoming a formidable force for civil rights and a long-standing supporter of organizations like the NAACP. After retiring in 1976, Aaron continued opening doors for black Americans in baseball and beyond. He became one of the first black individuals to hold an upper-level management position in Major League Baseball when Braves owner Ted Turner appointed him Vice President of Player Development. Aaron co-founded the Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream Foundation with his wife Billy, dedicated to helping children develop their potential. His humanitarian efforts earned prestigious recognition, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2002 and the Thurgood Marshall Lifetime Achievement Award from the NYCP Legal Defense Fund in 2005. Aaron's experience revealed that breaking baseball's color barrier, as Jackie Robinson had done, was only the first step. The deeper battle was for acceptance of black excellence on par with white historical figures. The virulent hatred Aaron faced decades after integration showed that racial prejudice hadn't disappeared. It had evolved. Instead of preventing black people from entering white spaces, it now actively resisted their triumph within those spaces. Aaron's quiet dignity became a powerful form of protest, demonstrating that true equality required not just access, but respect for black achievement and dismantling racial hierarchies. His post-retirement advocacy for minority hiring in baseball's front offices showed that civil rights extended beyond playing fields to structures of power and opportunity. Hank Aaron hit 755 home runs and earned 25 All-Star selections. But his real achievement was far beyond statistics. He didn't just fight pitchers, he fought America's deepest prejudices with unwavering courage and dignity. His journey serves as a powerful lesson about the persistence of systemic racism, showing that even groundbreaking legal changes don't immediately erase deeply ingrained prejudices. The emotional scars he carried, his statement that the experience carved a piece of my heart away, underscore the profound human cost of fighting for justice. Aaron's advocacy established a blueprint for future generations of athletes and activists, proving that sports can be a powerful arena for social change. His life stands as a testament to perseverance, quiet strength, and the ongoing need to confront racial injustice in all its forms. When Hank Aaron passed away in 2021, he left behind more than baseball records. He left an indelible mark on the American narrative of civil rights, reminding us that the fight for racial equality is ongoing and requires continuous courage across all domains of society. His legacy teaches us that true champions aren't just measured by their statistics, but by their willingness to stand up for what's right, even when the whole world seems against them.